can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat.
ESBR boxing. We're about myself and Owen McKendry. That means one thing, usually one thing only. And it means at this time as well, we're in final prediction mode. We are predicting the, I suppose you could say super fight if you're a big fan, but if not, a kind of a good undercard fight between Ekow and Jack Catterall taking place on the undercard of Ben versus Eubank, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on that supercard coming up this weekend. Owen, this is a final prediction show, so obviously we're going to come to you for prediction in a minute, and then we'll explore, I suppose, some of the landscape around the division and potential next steps for both fighters, depending on who wins. But as I've stated, the floor is yours. Who wins this one, Owen? Jack Catterall versus Ekow Essuman. Who wins, how, and why, please?
I think Jack Catterall's going to spin Ekow Essuman on his head. I think it's going to be a comfortable night's work for Jack Catterall. I think, like we say, we'll get into it, but I think Ekow Essuman, the Josh Taylor fight is, I think Taylor's done. He's finished. I didn't expect him to get the victory, but I think Catterall's levels above Essuman. Known as the engine, so I imagine he's going to bring the fight and he's going to try and step on Catterall's toes. I just think Catterall's going to be far too good. I think he's going to tie him up in knots. And I think we could be looking at probably a 7 or 8 round victory, where we're pretty fairly comfortable. Jack Catterall, unanimous decision.
Yeah, you know what? I think I totally agree with you. I think, to be honest with you, I'm not sure, but I think when it comes to the KO, I'm not sure. I think Jack Catterall will win wide. To be honest with you, and kind of do what he wants to do. Whether he's sort of motivated for a stoppage, whether he's not motivated for a stoppage, but I think he's just like you say, he's levels above Ekow Essuman. Look at Ekow Essuman's obviously fought kind of European, British level really. Jack Catterall's been, should have been obviously undisputed champion. Has fought up at world level for a long time. So for me, it's a kind of strange one. I think the kind of yeah, to be fair to him, I didn't expect Ekow Essuman to do what he did to Josh Taylor, frankly, to come through that fight like that. But I think, like you said, that kind of shows more the decline, really, in Josh Taylor at the end of the day. Obviously, it was retired, obviously, now as well, but it shows the sort of decline in him as well. So, can't read too much into that one, but I'm agreeing with you. I think Catterall convincing. Just a question of how motivated he is for the stoppage. If he gets the stoppage second half of the fight, if not, I think he'll just. I mean, you couldn't even see one of those like sort of one-sided fights where just like Tao ends up coming in because there's no chance for Usman to kind of come back. But equally, Catterall's not a massive puncher, but it's just a question of how motivated is he. So yeah, we'll see. Obviously, that, but we both are in agreement. Jack Catterall's going to win this and win this convincingly. I suppose picking up on that, I suppose the question for me really is how many fights or where you necessarily pitch Jack Catterall after this? I mean, do you think Jack Catterall's got another run against one of those sort of world champions up at welterweight? Do you think he's got that sort of in him, or do you think Catterall's almost kind of picking kind of obviously as a pro boxer, he's picking kind of fights, money fights, fights you can get on the cards here and there, etc. Or do you think there's actually a legitimate run that you could have another world title opportunity in the near to mid future?
Yeah, 100%. I think he was poor against Barboza. Credits Barboza, he was just better on the night. Did Jack Catterall overlook him? Probably. He was looking at the likes of, say, Fimo Lopez, etc. He was 100% looking past him. Barboza may just be better than him as it is, but the added factor of that, and he was 100% looking past that fight at what he had next. I think that played into it. Lewis Crocker's just won the IBF welterweight title. Is Lewis Crocker world champion material? Absolutely not. I'm sure Billy Nelson, if he tunes into this video, will absolutely love that shout from me. Um, I think he's very lucky to be a world champion. I'd actually quite like to see that fight next. Should Jack Catterall get through Ekow Essuman, I would like to see him fight Lewis Crocker for the IBF title, not in Belfast, a bit more of a
Yes.
neutral venue. Um, even the playing field out. But then I think you've got Mario Barrios. Is one of the champions. Um, we spoke about Brian Norman Jr. Obviously, he's fighting Devin Haney. Rolly Romero has another bout. Jack Catterall, whether he beats them or not is a different question. But can he compete with those names? 100% he can get in there and compete with them. But I think for me, IBF, Lewis Crocker, somewhere in England, a neutral venue away from Manchester or Belfast. I'd like to see that next.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm struggling to pick any disagreement with what you've said there. I think look at those champions. Barros is always mentioned as kind of a weak champion. Try and like feed
Mhm.
him obviously to Manny Pacquiao. If you look at like Lewis Crocker, I think Lewis Crocker. kind of obviously won the fight last time out against Paddy Donovan, but I was kind of expecting Paddy Donovan to have too much for him, frankly. And then obviously we know what happened in the first fight. So I kind of feel like, in a way, I was delighted for him that he became world champion like that, but I also feel like it's just on borrowed time. It's a case for him, I suppose, on like how can you get the biggest payday basically to lose that world title. And if that is Jack Catterall, then so be it. But I think Jack Catterall would comfortably beat Lewis Crocker, frankly, even with the sort of puncher's chance that Paul Kelly, etc., would probably give Lewis Crocker. Rolly Romero again. I think Jack Catterall could outpoint Rolly Romero convincingly. I think he could actually outpoint Brian Norman Jr. as well. Obviously, Brian Norman Jr. could catch Catterall as well, and maybe even stop him. But I think he, like you say, he definitely could compete up at that level. So for me, I think. He's had quite the career, Jack Catterall. He's had what, like 33 fights or something now. He's 32 years old. Those sort of weights, not a low weight, but obviously not a kind of not one of those sort of comfortable sort of weights to grow into as you get older. So I think like maybe he's definitely got years on him. But it's a case of really for me, I think probably have to pick up a world title if he does pick it up within the next sort of year, 2 years. And I think Lewis Crocker for me would be the best opportunity, as you said as well, to get that going. Like you say, somewhere in England, for that as well. So I totally agree with you. I suppose we'd pick up a little bit on Ekow Essuman as well. Obviously we've given him kind of zero chance here. 23 fights, 36. So he's obviously older than Jack Catterall. I suppose if he loses here to Jack Catterall, then there's a golfing class, but. What do you see for Ekow Essuman? Do you see drop down sort of domestic level? Do you see him up, maybe competing up a world level? Or do you think this would be kind of it for him at the kind of upper echelons of the division?
This is it for me. Obviously, if he beats Jack Catterall, he's going to be on cloud nine in great form. Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall, two very very good names to have on a CV for someone that most people wouldn't have expected to get past British level. So you'd have to give him credit there. But if Ekow Essuman gets a world title shot, he's going to get embarrassed. It's if he does, fair play to him. I know he will give it a very good go, and he'll put everything into it, but he will come up very very short. Um, if he fought someone like Brian Norman Jr. for example, out of the champions we mentioned, I'd be heavily backing the stoppage. But then I think beat Josh Taylor, lose to Jack Catterall, no shame in that. Back to British level. If he wants to stick around, there's plenty of domestic fights, European level fights that he could have. He'll be another one where he'll be a very good test to see where someone's at. If they go in come up slightly short, fair enough, go back to drawing board. If they come in, beat him, then it's like, okay, we need to if it's a young kid, essentially, it's time to move them on. So I definitely don't think it's a win-win for me. For Ekow Essuman, gets to fight on probably the biggest card in this country this year, super fight level card, stadium fight. It's just ticking box after box. Probably going to get weighed in very nicely by the Saudis for it as well. So it's a pure win-win situation for Ekow Essuman for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is me for Ekow Essuman up at this sort of level. But like you said, I think drops down there's other fighters around the division, especially sort of British interests. You've got the likes of Harlem Eubank, obviously. Could even have we're talking about Lewis Crocker kind of getting beaten convincingly, and maybe he sort of drops down a little bit from where he kind of is at the moment, which seems in some ways to me to be kind of quite an elevated status, from where he was fighting sort of Conor Walker a couple of years ago, and like those sort of names, and like Tyrone McKenna to now sort of being a world champion just seems a bit of an elevation, a bit of an inflation. So maybe you could drop down and fight someone like Ekow Essuman as well. But I think that, definitely not the end of the road for Usman, but I think the end of the aspirations to sort of get to that world level and title level action in that respect. But in that is sadly all we have time for, guys. Please let us know what you think. Who's going to win this fight? Usman versus Catterall. What's next for Jack Catterall? Could he win a world title? And if so, who against? And like and subscribe to the channel. We've got all your boxing needs up and under one roof. Reviews, previews, big fight breakdowns, all that good stuff. So please like and subscribe and check out the channel for that. And as always, Owen, I'd like to say thank you to you for joining me. And finally, guys, thank you very much for watching.
Cheers, mate.